some quick tips for training these sequences by yourself. Of course, it's important to train them by yourselves. You're not going to feel comfortable teaching something that you don't control. Yeah, this brings us back to a lot of the mindset sessions from level 1 about integrity. Of course, if we're not training by ourselves, we don't feel comfortable teaching our students. So when you're training these sequences by yourself, and they can really be just a warm-up for your real training because they're not really heavy, it's always good to have a training partner. It's the optimal situation to have a training partner. It doesn't have to be somebody amazing. It could be one of your advanced students, could be one of your teenagers that you're preparing to be an assistant in the future. So if you have a training partner, that would make it a lot easier. But if you don't, you just shadow box. Yeah. Actually, even if you're training with a partner, it's always good to shadow box. Shadow box means to train by yourself. And as you're training by yourself, you are imagining the partner on the other side, what he's doing. It's actually a lot more challenging. That's why boxers and all martial artists, always part of their training is some sort of shadow box where you are imagining the other side. You're always going to use the techniques we learned in the level 1 course, slicing and rewinding. Every sequence can be sliced into 3. Usually 3 is a good amount of numbers, sometimes 2, sometimes 4 slices. And then you're going to start with the last slice and rewind. So when you're teaching a sequence, you don't have to rewind the separate techniques because you already taught the techniques using the rewind method. Now that they know the techniques, now you're teaching a sequence. You're going to rewind the sequence. So if you divided the sequence into 3, you're going to teach, or you're going to train, first of all, the third part, then the second part, and then the first part. And just a good way of doing it is training 1 minute per slice when you're training by yourself, and then 1 minute, everything together. So in 4 minutes, you basically refreshed, learned, and trained the whole sequence. Never go faster than perfect. It's a really cool sentence, but actually it has a lot of meaning behind it. Yeah. The slower you train, the faster you learn. These sequences were made to be in the beginning of the class. They are warm-up sequences. They're not meant to be super explosive. They're meant to be done with a lot of mindfulness, a lot of concentration, and you should go really, really slow. And it's fun. You're going to see many people think they're going slow, but they're actually going really, really fast. Okay? So never go faster than perfect. It means that if you're getting confused, making mistakes, if you don't remember the next slice, that means that for that moment, you're going a little bit too fast for what your brain can handle. Yeah, you should be going at a pace where you can sort of think about the next thing that's going to happen. And you have to be mindful of the practice. A very good place to be able to reach in your own practice is that as you're practicing, you're able to say in your mind or even out loud, fake up, catch down, yeah, natural principle, yeah. That every moment inside the sequence, you're able to repeat like the mantra of what's happening in that sequence at that moment. That's going to be really helpful for you later as a teacher. Yeah, you know that you not only control the whole sequence, but you control the tactics and the principles of every slice. And the last tip for training by yourself is the self-feedback. It's really important that every time before you go training, you watch the video. Every time you're going to be seeing more and more details. Then you go train a little bit. Then you watch the video again. Then you train a little bit. Then you film yourself and you watch yourself and you see how close you are, yeah, between the video example and where you are at. Does it look good? Does it look beautiful? Is it flowing? Are there any technical mistakes? Yeah, you're going to see how you're doing, and slowly you're going to be mastering the move. You will have the self-feedback PDF from the level 1 course, yeah, where you can really use that when you watch yourself on the video. Today it's so easy. Just set up a phone at the end of the class and just do all the sequences in a row, yeah, for yourself. Then you sit down with the self-feedback sheet and you give yourself a quick feedback. And it's really, really important, yeah. Many people train these sequences wrong. Yeah, they sort of do them really quick. They do them, without concentrating too much, and they end up training mistakes over a long period of time, then it becomes a lot harder to correct the mistakes. So teaching your students is pretty much the same way as you're going to train by yourself, but you need to understand that the beginners sometimes don't know all the techniques. Yeah, so for every sequence, there are some preconditions. They have to know all the techniques before that. Before you're going to teach Me'alua, Keshada, Keshada, of course, they need to learn Me'alua and Keshada separately, and then you're going to put it into the technique. It's not optimal that the student gets to know the technique for the first time inside the sequence. The second thing is same as you did. You're going to slice and rewind once they know the techniques already from before. Now you're going to put them together in the sequence. Slice the sequence into 3 parts and start from part 3, then part 2, and then part 1. Remember, you don't have to teach the whole sequence in the class. You can teach part 3 of one sequence, and then part 3 of another sequence, and then part 3 of another sequence, and slowly you can build a few sequences parallel. It's actually even better. You don't have to finish with one sequence before going to the other sequence. In my class, for example, the first class in Capoeira would be the third slice of the first sequence, then the third slice of the second sequence, and then the third slice of the third sequence. That's going to be, and then maybe I will just teach Keshada, already preparing the fourth sequence for the future. Yeah. Be careful not to give too much details in the beginning. Água demais mata planta. Yeah. So be careful not to take everything you saw in the videos and give everything at one time. That's the whole idea, is that you're going to layer the details. In the beginning, you don't even need to give any details. They're just learning the slices. Then you can give some technical details, how to do the martelo correctly, how to do the chapa correctly, how to do the entrada correctly. Then after a while, a few classes, you might give a tactical detail. Every time you see that it starts to look good, you give a few more details. Every time you feel the motivation to train the sequence starts going down, oh, that sequence again, you give a few details, and then suddenly, whoop, it's interesting again.